Hello, and welcome back to Not the Newsletter. This is Season 2, Episode 8, I believe. I don't keep good track of that, but I think that's where we're at. And this is the podcast/show that we talk about technology, AI, and kind of anything else we want to discuss. Here today with Noah Wiley, and we're talking about WWDC 2025. So excited.
WWDC.
Isn't that what I said? What did I say?
You said WDC, but that's how the logo looks. They do a little weird, little blendy thing.
I might have said. We'll have to go back and rewind it and find out.
Roll it.
And we're talking about WWDC. Start over, Chris. You said it wrong.
Oh, man.
So WWDC is Apple's developer conference.
Yep.
The weird thing for me, like right out of the gate, that was weird is when I watched the full keynote. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel developer-y to me, right? Like if I was
consumer.
If I was a developer, I'm like, show me the code, show me the back end of this. Like,
yep.
Give me an idea of some of the maybe features I can use or things like that, right?
The main press event is very consumer-centric.
Yeah.
But if you go, because they have their own App developer has their own YouTube channel, own website, never own everything like that. But if you go to that, they actually do get more into like the actual more relevant developer thing. I still feel like me as a very non-developer, I've watched some of it, and it still doesn't feel like it gets super in-depth. So I don't know if it's more like reserved. You need to be like registered as an Apple developer. I'm not 100% sure, but it's still definitely meant to be watched as a normal guy or girl.
What I would imagine is kind of as I watched it is the keynotes maybe more like, here's kind of an overview of all the things we're doing.
Sure.
And then the breakouts are just like nerdy. So it's like, hey, you want to,
Sure.
Here's how you actually integrate with this stuff and use an OpenAI tool to connect with this or whatever. That's my guess, right?
Sure.
Is that they want the sort of keynote to be something anyone could digest.
Mass market, yeah.
What's coming down the pipeline, and then they get into it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of serves two purposes because it also like advertise, so to speak, all their new software and stuff that's coming up, which is like relevant for like people who are not developers or whatever. So
yeah.
I bet you're right, though. I totally believe that. But so what did they, on that note, though, for the consumer-centric, whatever, what did they talk about this year?
Well, it was actually a lot of stuff.
It was.
I think the big push was their new liquid glass design, right? Like that came up a lot.
That did come up. What was the word they kept using? Delightful.
Delightful.
Yeah.
They used the word delightful a
Way
lot.
too much.
I started to predict when they were going to say it.
Probably not too hard.
Our delightful new design with liquid glass, which looks a lot like Windows Vista, right? It's kind of
the joke has been that it's the rebirth of Windows Vista, which I think is absolutely hilarious. But it does admittedly look cool. Long story short, liquid glass is basically just a fancy name for Apple's new interface design, essentially like interface being like what you interact with, what you tap, click around, like how it looks, how everything's displayed and everything like that. So their new method is...
It's like translucent.
Translucent, yep.
I honestly don't think I heard them say translucent. Like that's really the...
Yeah. I don't know.
I remember the word delightful a ton, but I don't remember them saying the word translucent, which I think is kind of what it is. Like so you can kind of see the different
semi-translucent,
layers. And they're trying to create sort of logos and things where you can see all the different layers, so that it, and they've got tools. I guess part of the developer thing is to help you build icons and things like that to layer things correctly and make it look all pretty and whatever.
It's essentially meant to look more kind of like their Vision.
Sure, like Vision OS,
because that was very like glassy and translucent and everything like that. This kind of follows suit because their big push is try and make everything unified.
Sure,
because it used to be not that everything looked very simple, very disparate, but like the Macs definitely looked different than like an iPad or an iPhone in terms of like how it looked, like the software looked and everything like that. So it's a big unifying thing. Along of that, how there used to be iOS 18, then macOS 15, and watchOS 12, whatever. The version numbers are all now unified. They're all kind of like a car. This year's is now going to be
next
year. So this year's going to be iOS, tvOS, macOS, whatever, 26.
Right.
To be all the same numbers, which I think it should be the year of, but whatever. I think it's actually helpful.
Yeah, I think it does help for, I'm sort of a Mac user, but like, I don't know that I'd call myself like an all-in Mac user. Like there's some people that just like their whole life is Mac.
Right.
So I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle of that. And you do sometimes find yourself like, hey, what version of iPadOS is current? Or what version of, macOS is current? Like, so I think it's, you hear someone, they're like, oh, I'm on version iPadOS 12. And you're just like, I don't know if that's new. And like, I don't know if you're good to go, or maybe you're like 9 versions behind. Yeah. So if you're not in all the different platforms, it's hard to know like what's current just from like helping people out and support, like, hey, where are you at? does that need an upgrade? Is that fully supported? Like, even if you were to read something like, oh, the last version we're going to support this hardware is on this. Well,
Right.
When was that? Like, how old?
Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I do like that. And then if it's like, hey, this iPad only runs version 25, you're like, okay, well now I get a sense of like that went, end of life a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever. So I think it will help a little bit to just like make sense of some of that stuff. So
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. Should we can just kind of go over the highlights of each one. I guess we might as well start with the most popular product, iPhone, I'm thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are some new stuff they add? We're obviously both iPhone users, so it's both relevant to us. Obviously, first off, it gets its whole liquid glass thing, which people have been, what's the word? Divisive, I think is that the word? Kind of split down the middle. Some people love it. Some people think it's a legibility nightmare.
Yeah, I think especially if you do the all clear, I think that's the issue. I think some of the layering looks cool if you've got darker colors as part of those layers, and then the last one's maybe translucent. But yeah, they're offering this sort of like entirely translucent version.
Right.
I think that could be weird. The only thing that I think it could be good for is I know there have been versions where they sort of desaturate the entire OS, right, or black and white or something to that effect, like grayscale, in an effort to prevent you from like that like trigger moment of like, I really want to go look at that cool thing or look at that like the color sort of draws you in to something.
Sure. Yeah.
So I wonder if there'll be some studies around like, hey, when it's just all the same, maybe you have less desire to go in there and just like death scroll something for hours if there's some like maybe disconnect for that too. I think obviously the grayscale makes everything grayscale, so you open Facebook, still grayscale.
Yeah.
I'm sure this won't be the case. You'll open Facebook and it would look normal.
I would think so, yeah. And I do know, because obviously right now iOS 26 and all these are not fully released yet. They're not actually coming out until like September.
Yeah, fall.
Fall, yep, exactly. Apple's now, when they put out to the public, because I would not recommend it, you can technically install these beta operating systems on your devices. Don't do it unless you have like, you really don't care, because if something goes really wrong, it's not Apple's fault because they warned you, like it's a developer thing. Or if you have like an old device or wherever that you don't need, or wherever you could put it on there too and play around with it, whatever. Point being, they make very rapid updates to these betas. Like, I already saw that they're making adjustments to the liquid glass and adding more like opacity to some of the layers, because someone was like, everything is clear and I cannot
I literally can't read anything.
They are already correcting some of that, which some people, on the note, if you see it and you really don't like it, there's a little bit of hope of Apple does take the feedback pretty seriously. Like back 10 years ago when they did the whole iOS 7 revamp, that was a wildly different look, and the beta version that they announced at their developer conference versus the final version were substantially different. Like the original one, or the final one, was a lot better than like less polarizing, whatever, more people, whatever. But anyways, yeah. So what were some of the new things besides liquid glass? What else did they offer? Yep, they offered camera. So I actually don't know much about what they did with the camera. So what did they do?
So it just looks
more simplified, right?
More simplified. So on the home screen of your camera, it's just video and camera. So if you want to get to frame rates, if you want to get to panorama or portrait mode or anything, those are all still there. But on the home screen of the phone, you'd have to swipe on the bottom to get to those. But they're not necessarily like, how you can kind of see currently on the phone. You can kind of see them and you can kind of swipe back.
It's not
and
like
forth.
a wheel kind of, yeah.
Yeah, but the new one is going to not have that. So it will just be...
which is like 99% of what you do, like with a phone camera.
I think
you
that's...
just pull it out and take the picture or video and put it away.
So I think that's their thought is like, hey, there might be 1% of you out there that are going to use your iPhone in pro mode and switch to 24 frames a second so that it matches your cameras, or switch to 120 frames a second so you can slow it down in post-production or whatever. The average person is just like taking pictures of their kids and, on vacation and whatever, and probably don't care what frame rate it is and what. I don't want a video. It's going to look nice. Like, you figure that out, right? Yeah. That's why I paid money for this thing.
Yeah. Right.
So, and I'm sure they just did a lot of research and were like, hey, people use the camera and the video, and they're just not switching things. So they've simplified that a ton. Everything's still there. So if you are a pro and you want that, it's
I didn't take anything away. It's just
right.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see. I bet you they offer some options for camera nerds and things. But maybe you can get like show me the old landing screen thing, right? Like,
I wonder. Yeah, I don't know.
If you're an MKBHD and you're like, I'm constantly like changing these things, maybe they'll give you like a
Because that would be annoying to have to like have 5 more button presses to get like exposure
to do the same
or something.
thing.
Yeah. So there's that. That's super cool. There's some. the running joke of that the iPhone phone app, like the dialer app, hasn't changed in like 10 years because it hasn't. Finally has some changes. They're kind of getting some cool, casually Google-inspired things. Well, I think one of them's new. One of the new things you're getting is like that call screening, kind of like what Google has. So like if you have like a what you think is probably a suspected spam call, I don't know. I didn't see how you can activate on the iPhone if they even show that. But basically, you can just have Siri or whatever the assistant basically screen the call. Will be like, hey, this is assistant for where I don't even know.
I think they said it was everything that wasn't in your contacts.
Really?
Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it said. So I think it was like not if it was not like a known contact,
person.
It would do that by default. I'm guessing you can have it off or on, but if you have it on, I think that was, again, this is all beta, so I'm sure it could change between now and then, but that was, I think the current setup was not a contact, like.
Does the screen. Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, so it'll just kind of like the voice assistant will like screen the call for you, and then you can see like a live transcription of what's going on the screen.
Right.
If it's something that is actually good, like, oh, it's a contractor that was trying to reach, I don't have it in my context, you can quick answer the phone, actually talk with the person. Or if it's complete junk or whatever, the little transcription service can kind of handle the call and everything.
I think or you can send it to voicemail.
Or that too, yeah, sure. Or like a text or something like that. But yeah, so basically just to help not have to pick up so many spam calls. Google started doing that a while ago, actually.
Yeah.
But people have really liked it, and I think it's been a really good thing. So it's nice to see that Apple's finally doing that too, especially with the rate of spam calls and everything getting ridiculous now. Along with that, another phone feature, which I feel like Apple's really good at this, thinking of things that like you didn't think you needed, but then it's like, oh, that's actually incredible. Hold assist, which I think is amazing.
Yep.
Basically, it's just exactly as it sounds. If you're like on a call and he's like, hey, you're on hold and you're number 400, well, hopefully not that, 40 in line, sit and wait on hold, the phone will like detect that on the screen and it'll be like, hey, sounds like you're on hold. Do you want us to it'll just keep you on hold. You can hang up the call. I mean, it kind of just keeps it going in the background, but then you can go and do whatever else. You can walk away, hold your phone with you. You can go play some game, we go Facebook, whatever, do whatever you want. And then you'll just get a notification when it's like, oh, hey, it sounds like your call is actually ready to be answered when like the person's actually there, and then you can jump back in. That's actually incredible.
Right.
I love that.
I wonder though how often that's even going to be useful anymore. I feel like all the places I can think of, you call Delta to change a thing. I think one of their first options is like, hey, you're 10th in line. Would you like us to call you back? Like, is this the right number? And you're just like, sure.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but then in the past like month, I have not had that experience. And it's been like brutal. Really? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, but I get what you're saying.
Dell or somebody, or there's probably some places that don't have it yet. But
right.
I'll be curious to see how valuable it will be if some of the vendors that know they're going to keep you on hold just.
A lot of them do that, and that is nice.
And honestly, for them, I bet it saves them money because if you're calling in on an 800 number, I think they have to pay for every single minute. They'd rather have you not be on hold. I think it's better for them if they hang up with you when an agent is available. Then they just call you back. That's probably way more efficient for them too.
So we'll see, but that is a good point because a lot of bigger whatever will offer that. So, but
they're also making the the phone screen more simplified too,
like the app.
Yeah, like I guess they're including voicemail, contact, and your phone calls, and messages. Maybe I couldn't get a sense of why it was going to look different than what the phone already does, but maybe there's messages in there. I don't know. But something's changing with the phone app itself. It looked like it was more of a simplified version of like voicemail, contacts, phone, maybe with some integration around messages as well. I don't know.
Do you think sometimes there's a slight conviction, like I said before, the phone app on iPhone has not changed in like 8 years? Do you think sometimes it's just like a conviction, like we have to change this?
Yeah, I think so. They changed a lot of things though, so I don't know why they would feel they need to change this one, but they did. I was like, as I was watching it, I was like, okay, I feel like, because they kept saying voicemail. I'm like, man, I think voicemail has been in the phone app forever. I don't know what version they're thinking of. So yeah, but something's changing. I think it was 3 buttons instead of 4, because right now it's what? Recents, contacts, voicemail, dialer or something like that, or like the dialer button.
And favorites, which admittedly I don't use, but it's like a speed dial, but yeah.
So there's only 3, and I'll probably bring it up on screen. You can check it out. It's those right there. Yeah. And so that's the phone.
The only other thing that's like,
not that anyone makes calls anymore, but in case you do, still like it's gonna be new.
The last thing I just wanted to note, and they didn't really, I don't think, share a bunch of details on it, but like they have an adaptive power mode that like optimizes another kind of Google thing. Not that they just stole it. I'm not saying that, but like basically just in the background, AI will analyze what you're doing and like essentially make it more power efficient based on what you're doing. They gave kind of little details about what that means, but they pitched this as new adaptive power thing. And the most insane engineering thing on the planet, Apple finally figured out how to give you a charge time estimate, like 30 minutes until whatever great groundbreaking discovery had to happen at Apple for that to happen, because they're like the only people on the planet who don't do that up until now for
which
phones.
is legitimately just how much voltage is left in the battery, how much voltage am I getting into my battery, and then how long is it going to take for those two things to equal out so that I'm at the voltage I'm supposed to be at for a full charge. I think that's like the easiest math problem I've ever heard of.
Guys, this is actually way easier than we're making it.
Glad they figured it out, though.
It's about time. So anyways,
it's not that they just figured it out. It's that they were willing to put it on a screen.
Yes, that is true. The phone already knew that. It 100%, just wouldn't tell you.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All right, what's next? iPad. I do not have an iPad, so I don't really. Not that this isn't relevant. Well, my wife has an iPad. I don't have an iPad, so I don't really know much about iPad.
I don't remember that many changes in iPad.
Just that's becoming more Mac-like, I feel like. Which Apple's long-running thing is, well, the iPad and the Mac are different, we swear, but then they keep on making the iPad more like a Mac, which isn't inherently bad and everything like that. But what they add some new things, like the iPads now have a top like menu bar, kind of like you would wouldn't show up there, like you have on Mac, like with like files and edit and everything like that. And I think it has more like windowing and multitasking, everything like that, which is great. So you can have like multiple apps open at once or anything like that. And it also finally gets a native phone app now, so you can finally do phone calls like on the iPad.
I was going to say that, yeah, because if we were talking about the phone a little bit, the Mac does that too now, so you can make a call directly.
Oh yeah, it does.
Because in the past you could pick up a call
on the Mac. You're saying?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I could do that now if you call me. My Mac would ring, I could pick it up. But I think now they're letting you initiate the call from the Mac, which you couldn't do now. Like if I open my Mac and go to the video tab, like there's no dialer in there. It just
I see.
It'll show the recent calls that I've got where my laptop was on.
Yeah.
That it noticed if there's missed calls or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't generate a call from there. So that's changing. You'll be able to do that now.
But does it still run through your phone? Because like they don't.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So your phone won't. If your phone's off, this won't work.
Right? Because they don't make a SIM card version of a Mac.
I don't.
They do have an iPad though, so I wonder how that works.
Yeah.
But we're assuming it all still runs through the phone.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, your phone's gonna make the call. I'm guessing they got to be in the same Wi-Fi networks, whatever. But that's kind of cool because there's been times I've wanted to do that. I'm like, I just want to. I'm on my computer. I'm wearing AirPods already. Can I just like, you're scrolling a website. You're like, I just want to call this guy, contractor, same deal. Like, I need a roofing quote or I need a window quote or whatever. Like, you're on their website. Like, it'd be awesome to just be like, bink, and then it just
that would be super
calls them. I don't care how you find a way to do this, but you know where my phone is, and I can take calls here, but I can't make them. So that'll be awesome. I'm sure that will be a thing we can do. So you can just click it. It'll be your default dialer, and
that would be super cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
I don't think there's like you said. I don't think there's anything else super big with iPad. Just make it more
liquid glassy.
Yes. More relevant for you, macOS Tahoe, the new macOS version. What's new in that one? Besides, again, all of these support or adopt liquid glass, so like that's kind of just a commonality between all of them. But
yeah, I think the thing for me was the phone. That was the only thing that sort of stood out to me.
That is super cool, actually.
And, I can't. And nothing else really.
To note, though, it will be the last macOS version to support Intel.
Sure, because they've been making them with Intel for some reason. When was the last Mac that's come with an Intel? Mac Pro? I mean, do they still? I was gonna say those are all M4, M whatever chips, right?
Yeah, they had the old model Mac Pro. So
this just means if you found some way to emulate this or do whatever, it could run on Intel. Is that what they're saying? They haven't made anything natively with Intel for a long time. The Mac Pro was latent to the game, but that was probably a couple of years ago, right? That they switched the Mac Pro to.
Yeah, according to Google AI Overview on Google, the final Mac model, like the big standing desktop thing, to feature an Intel processor was Mac Pro 2019, which was discontinued June 2023.
Right, so a couple of years.
I mean, if you drop the minimum price on that thing was like $8,000, so I guess they're.
But you never buy the minimum. It had like no RAM, no disk, no anything.
So it actually cost like $30.
Oh yeah, usually. I would guess the average spend was somewhere between 18 and 30 on one of those.
So it was like production heavy.
Yeah.
Point being, but that would be like
and then the like M2, M3, M4 came out, and for like $1,000 a MacBook Air was better, and
which is insane.
Yeah, so someone that spent $20,000 2 years before it can go get a laptop and absolutely annihilate it.
Has the resale value of a bad car.
Yeah. More like a boat anchor, I think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, genuinely.
Kind of heavy too. So you probably could use one as a boat anchor. Someone in the
Stainless
fishing
steel,
boat just like. I would love to see that.
But anyways, yeah. So if you have any Intel-based Macs, they're still getting updates, which there are a couple out there. This year's going to be your last one, but please, for the love of goodness.
So you're talking about updates and not the fact that it can run it. So you're just saying when they release iOS 27, Mac OS 27, that it won't run on.
Right.
So if you own one of these Mac Pro Intels from 2023, it won't support Mac OS 27.
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would stink a little bit because I think Mac is really good usually at like the longevity of their support. You spend $20,000. Let's say that you bought the last one in 2023. I don't think anyone did. I think everyone knew the M series was coming soon, and so they probably didn't. But let's just say that you were that person. We're like, I need 6 terabytes, and this is my only way to get it, but I need a Mac. It's got what? So someone bought one, and it only works for 4 years.
Yeah, essentially.
Ooh,
yeah. Which hurts.
Apple, you're gonna have to pay them some money. They're gonna be angry at you.
Buyout fee, or something. So, yeah, just a note. But again, the Mac, the Apple Silicon stuff is way better than the Intel. So like, just go get the Mac OS ones. I feel like there wasn't else super big about like the Macs, just besides that, and maybe this is like not a big deal. Mac people really like their Launchpad. I feel like the Launchpad is like the thing where it like show all the apps that you have. You can open wherever you want. That is now changing to like an app library thing, like it does on iPhone and iPad. Which if you're an iPhone or iPad user, if you just keep swiping to the right, you get your app library, which is like it organizes it the Apple way, so you don't get to pick how it puts it in stuff in folders. It just like does it. It bothered me a little bit at first, but I got used to it when I kind of learned how to do it better. I feel like on a computer, I feel like that's a little bit too much like not automation. What's the word I'm looking for? That let people make their own folders.
Yeah.
That feels like too much. Just like that feels like the other way we're talking about, like the iPad become more like a Mac. That then also makes the Mac feel like it's more like an iPad, which is like does the things for you.
Which makes it feel more like an iPhone, which makes it
yeah, right. Everything comes back to the iPhone.
I feel like Apple knows their users though.
Yes, they have.
So
yes.
I feel like they probably do things
Must be what people want.
Right.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, I know yeah. I don't want to like I'm obviously an iPhone user, so I don't want to dig on iPhone users, but
you can.
They're not an iPhone user generally is just like I just want it to work.
No,
right?
That's true.
Right? Like I don't necessarily want to customize it. Like you just wouldn't be in that so I think in that same scenario, it's just like I want to open my computer and like, oh, it's like entertainment
created for me.
Yeah, like I don't know that they're necessarily going to be too angry about that, especially because I think they're probably trying to create a sort of unified design towards so everything else. I'm sure they get feedback, and they also don't do a thing unless they think it's going to work really well.
Which is usually why they're the ones who move last on things.
Yeah, it's like I mean, even there's been recent interviews with them where they're just like, "Hey, your AI is miserable. Siri is miserable. Why?"
Yeah,
and I think they're just like so reluctant to release a thing that's not in there. And again, I don't think they release everything that's perfect, but in their mind, if it's not perfect or nearly perfect, they just won't do it.
You're right.
And so I think when they do come out, you're like, they probably had a lot of conversations. They probably talked to a lot of people, and they're just like, hey, would you like this to kind of match? And people are like, actually, yeah, that would be kind of good.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Which may why macOS is not for me.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. Next. Oh, watchOS. I don't know. You don't have a watch.
I don't.
I do. Except for I guess I'm not the proper Apple Watch user because I use like almost none of the fitness stuff. I use very little of the health stuff, which is always what they're going for, which is obviously what most people buy them for, which is great. But it's also, again, same thing, following the same like Liquid UI design, everything like that. Gets a new like workout buddy, which is like an AI-powered fitness coach, which is I think is kind of cute and hilarious. I kind of want to try it because it could actually be super useful.
Yeah, you just like barely start running. It's like, you got this, Noah. Don't give up now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's basically what it would be for me. I know I felt real bad when I first got this watch. When I'd go on a walk, it's like, oh, you want to track your walk? I'm like, no, not really. Just leave me alone. Let me just walk in peace at whatever pace I want.
I don't want you to know how bad I'm going to do.
Yeah, that exactly. But anyways, yeah. So it's just and a couple other health things, or like it can get like the Notes app now and everything. Like nothing really huge for like the watch and everything like that. Just more health and fitness stuff. So.
Yep.
Vision OS for the couple people out there who have the headset. What's it called?
iVision? I don't know.
No.
I want to call it iVision because that makes the most sense, but Vision Pro?
AR. That's what I was looking for. The
I thought you were
the AR
talking-
headset. That's the VR AR headset. That's the word I was looking for. We made a video about it. The $3,500 headset. This whole Liquid UI thing kind of was conceived with the Vision Pro, so it's just a more addition to that. And they could just get some new things like spatial widgets and everything like that. So you can have your virtual workspace, and you could, like, for example, put like a widget thing up there on the wall if you're using like wherever, and it'll like lock in space. So if you like move around, like move your head around, like your calendar, if you have it up on the wall, it'll like stay on the wall and everything like that, which is kind of a cool grounding in reality sort of thing. Actually, I'm sure it actually takes a decent amount of compute to like do that and everything like that.
There are virtual offices for sale by my house if anyone's looking.
What does that do?
I have no idea, but
It's just an empty room.
yeah. I don't know, but they're for lease if you want one.
We're making money the wrong ways.
Yeah, I know.
It's way too easy.
Yeah, every time
apparently.
I drive by it, I was like, I need to buy one of those. I don't know what it is, but I want one so I can have a virtual office. Pay someone rent for it.
Well, then in your virtual office, they also made updates to the personas thing, which is like the virtual avatar of you and everything like that. So if you do a FaceTime call, like if I were to have the Vision Pro and I did a FaceTime call with Chris, obviously the Vision Pro can't see my whole face, so it does like a augmented reconstruction of you.
Yeah.
It actually looks kind of convincing. The eyes still look a little bit weird because eyes always look weird and stuff. That's but the rest of it actually looks kind of cool. So
Getting better though, getting better.
Mm-hmm. What there was one other thing I think. I mean, there's a couple other things. But the last notable thing was two more things, super quick. You had mentioned something before this podcast about like CarPlay stuff or CarPlay Ultra. What was that one again? Do you remember?
So CarPlay, I think, has always been better than like the Cars version of whatever, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I think there's other things that are going to be better in CarPlay, new features and things like that. CarPlay Ultra is coming out to a few car brands. I think it was Maserati or something like that was going to release the first one. But they integrate with the car so that you want to change climate control, you want to change whatever.
Your whole dashboard is Apple CarPlay.
Exactly. It's a little bit more of a seamless thing. So like right now, if you have CarPlay, you might have sort of the car's things, oil pressures, and that's not on anything new. But you have your speedometer and whatever.
Yep.
And then CarPlay is its own thing in the middle, right? So that it's in its own little window. It doesn't really allow it to go anywhere else. And so you have to get the map or whatever other CarPlay thing you want to display sort of there. Where CarPlay Ultra will be more flexible. So it's like, hey, I want the map in the upper right corner. I want the speedometer here and whatever. And so Apple kind of is integrated, and it feels more like CarPlay is running the dashboard than the car. The curious thing I would wonder is what happens if your phone's not attached? What does the interface look like? Does it break some things then if the car's just jump in the car without your phone? But I do like the idea of the phone being a little bit more integrated into
that is cool.
the design, so it doesn't feel like they're sort of fighting each other, because I think that's sometimes an issue. So that's a good thing.
With your really nice, pretty thing over here, and then your absolutely ugly like car software like right in the middle, because car manufacturers, just aren't that good at it.
Well, and then I think the issue too is then because of that, you end up maybe not right now. Like you buy a new car, wonderful.
Yep.
Probably looks fine. They both look gorgeous, right?
Yep.
10 years from now, CarPlay is going to have updates. It's going to do new things. It's going to do new whatever. And those things are going to have a hard time integrating with a car from 10 years ago that hasn't had an update. So I think if those can be more connected, I think as CarPlay gets updates and features and things like that, hey, cool. Like I have, my map in one window, and maybe there's like a notification or like text messages or something, like whatever, like a video call is coming in, and that's a different window. But like as features and how we use our cars change, those things can be integrated without the car feeling like it's 10 years old now, and it can stay, assuming that the main CPU and the thing keeps working.
Yeah. Well, doesn't the most compute happen on the phone anyway?
Probably. There's still got to be
has to happen on the car.
Yeah, there's got to be a.
Speaking of which, cars and phones, though, there's also the digital car key, which, from my understanding, just basically lets your phone be the car key.
Sure, that'd be good.
They're adding that. They quote 13 additional automakers getting on board. I don't have the actual list in front of me, but right now BMW, Hyundai support it, and just another 13 are going to be.
Well, isn't that how Tesla? I mean, It's not how you get in and out of a Tesla.
Well, that's
With
through
your
the
phone.
Tesla
It's
app,
an app,
though,
but
right?
still, it's on your phone.
So similar concept, yeah. Like you just walk up to the car and it unlocks the car, or you walk away and it locks or whatever like that. But I think this is just saying like it's like built into the phone, not like an addition. From my understanding, not like an additional app or whatever.
Okay.
But similar concept.
Sure. Hold this. There was something else I thought we should talk about. iMessage has some new features.
Oh, going back to the phone, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of it was about the phone.
Yeah,
As is typical.
Yep.
You can add backgrounds to iMessage. I don't know if that adds value to anyone's life, but you can do it.
Yep. Polls or something. They have polls.
You can do
now,
polls and group texting.
which
Yeah.
is actually kind of cool.
Yeah. I imagine all these new features are all like iMessage to iMessage. Like these got to be
Oh yeah, 100%.
iPhone to iPhone. They didn't say anything, but like
It's assumed.
I would assume that these are in iPhone only group message scenarios that you'd be able to do this.
Yeah, 100%. I would assume so too. But or I had one more thing. Did you have anything else on your mind?
I think that was pretty much it.
The last thing, they didn't. Back when Chris was talking about a couple of minutes ago about how people are kind of brutally calling out Apple for their admittedly rough launch into AI, which is totally true.
Yep.
Apple's had a very rough go at it at the beginning. Long story short, they pitched Apple Intelligence, their version of AI, last year, something like that, and they're like, we're going to be able to do all of these things by this time frame. And then they're kind of like, oh, actually, this is coming later, and this is coming later, and oh, here's this, but actually doesn't work. Well, they didn't say it doesn't work super well. People are like, this isn't really super good. They've had a very rough start at it, and now some people are even apparently, take it with a grain of salt, there's potential class action lawsuit coming out due to false advertising because people claim they're advertising that Apple Intelligence could do way more than it actually could or do it well in order to sell the iPhone 16, everything like that. I won't get it super into that.
Yeah, buy the new iPhone because it has integrated AI, and then the AI is miserable.
And then they backed up the whole, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So point being,
those people don't lie. They were going to buy a new phone anyway.
no, they were, but
Yeah.
they did heavily advertise, oh, it's good for Apple Intelligence. And then like a couple months later, they massively toned back how much they talk about Apple Intelligence. Just, it's been a rough start, basically. They didn't really talk about, I mean, Apple's never going to admit that they're wrong on anything. There's per the Apple way, usually, at least not that I've seen. They had their own marketing speak as to why it's not super good. They just want to release a really good thing, which I understand, but then maybe they shouldn't have released it so fast, whatever. Point being, they did offer a couple of new things to Apple Intelligence. Like something that's really cool is they're basically someone opening it up to other developers. So like if you have an app, like you have Instagram, I don't know what feature you use it for, but like basically Instagram would have the ability to like tap into Apple Intelligence on your phone to run and do something. Like if you have an app and you don't want to integrate your own AI features or like the back end of AI, you can leverage Apple Intelligence to run your AI features.
This is assuming that whatever app we're using doesn't have built-in AI.
Which is going to be all of them.
Yeah, it's going to be whatever. Okay.
They did it though. I think
they did it though. Yeah.
I think
in case there's not an AI button on Facebook already.
Oh yeah, Meta AI, right, exactly. So maybe make one that isn't also super into AI, but point being. So, but anyways, and they kind of just saying like, oh, it's gonna still like they have a bigger time or a timeline now, more in like March 2026 of when they're gonna roll out a bunch of like more how the AI can learn more about you and provide you more things and everything like that. They didn't talk a lot about it because it's been a rough go, but it still sounds kind of interesting.
I don't know. I feel like if you don't know that you're part of the, I mean, to be honest, like the iPhone users are just like, I want it to work. I don't, you know, like that's just why you buy an iPhone, right? So, if it's not good, they're probably not going to put it in there. If you want to try, if you want to be on the cutting edge of AI and whatever thing, you're probably an Android user. Or even if you're
100%.
Go buy an Android. Like go buy an Android, get Windows, use Linux. I mean, there's tons of things you could be out on the leading edge of things if you really want to try things. I just don't think Apple's that company, and which I think is fine. But I think if people get angry about the fact that they're supposed to be, I don't know that I've ever seen Apple. I guess they were the first one to come up with a phone. Like they come up with big things that are new, but they're not the most risky innovators.
They rarely move first.
Right.
Even like little things like the always on display thing, like where you can like your phone screen is kind of like half on, you can see notification, everything like that. Android phones started doing that like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then Apple finally just did. But admittedly, Apple's version, in my opinion, is the best version of it.
Right. Yeah, I think
there's an advantage to moving second.
Yeah, I think they wait until, it's like, hey, we could release AI, we could release a better version of Siri, we could do whatever, but it's not the best version of Siri, so we're just waiting.
Yep.
I don't know why they don't say that, because they do. They sort of beat around the bush, but
they absolutely do, which I don't think helps them.
It's honestly just their answer. Is like, hey, if we can't release a perfect thing, like, we're just not going to do it.
Right.
That's not our model. That's not what we want to do. So
just say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, yes,
we'll see how perfect this liquid glass thing is going to be, because that's going to be a.
I'm excited to try it, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think that's mostly it. Obviously, there's a little bit more, but that's the big thing. No new hardware. That'll come later this year. But yeah,
right. That's the gist.
Mm-hmm.
That's WWDC in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Watch out for our newsletter. That should be coming out soon as well. And we'll see you guys on the other side of this.
All right.
Later.
Bye, everyone.